Thank you so much for being here again. Um, as I mentioned, I've been very excited to speak to you and to get to know more about you and allow all of the students at the conference to know about your story and your experiences as well. So let me jump right into the first question. Um, so we're all here gathered, or we will be when this is shown, um, in a group that is probably larger than the groups we've been gathering in for the past maybe 2 years. And there's been so much going on uh, these days with the global pandemic and ongoing issues of hate and injustice. What are the simple things that bring you joy these days?
Well, I always used to like, when I was a little girl, I used to love little babies. And there was always helping mothers who had a new baby or went for a walk with little boys and girls. So, and that was really my aim in life then, to get married and have a big, big family. So this was really a big pleasure. Now, of course, the main thing we can do is going for walks. We have lovely parks here near where we live, and I go to the park and I see all those tiny toddlers, all these little bicycles and scooters. It's amazing how active they are, all smiling, and that really lifts my spirit. And the other thing is, the climate here is not very good. We very often have gray, foggy weather and a lot of rain. But sometimes, like a miracle, we have a wonderful blue sky, and it's really amazing. And I said to my friend, look at this blue, blue sky. And she said, yes, I know, I've seen it. I said, but look again. But it really makes me happy. And I come back from the walk and I'm okay again.
That's beautiful. We should all try and get outside and see the blue sky more often when we can. Yeah. So, those of us who read your book, we were astounded at your resilience throughout your journey, throughout each part of your journey. You experienced such hate and witnessed the most terrible acts committed by humans on other humans. Can you start by telling us how you have maintained hope throughout the years? What advice do you have for us and the students at the conference, young leaders, in maintaining a spirit of hope and maintaining our moral courage in our activism?
Um, well, life is too precious. And before, when we were in hiding, I was a very active child. I had to sit still the whole day. It was very, very frustrating. But we knew it was only hopefully for a short time. As it happens, it lasted much longer than we expected. But you live from day to day, and well, you don't want to give up because you know there will be an end and things is going to get better. And people say, they compare it now with people now that they can't go to school or they have to stay in and things. I said, yeah, but with us, there was life-threatening things going outside. So I always say, don't compare the COVID with what happened with the Nazis. It's quite a different thing. So yes, I hoped it was not going to be too long. I hope we were not going to be betrayed. But of course it got worse and worse. But one didn't know that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that answer. Yes, it's so good to see a phrase that I've been hearing a lot, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and I think we need to keep that in mind. Um, okay, so you mentioned before that something that brought you joy in your childhood was spending time with family, and I'm sure that's continued throughout your life, as well as many other relationships. So I want to ask, what were some of the most impactful relationships that you had before, during, and after the Holocaust in terms of your development as a young adult?
Well, as a child, in Vienna, I come from Vienna, Austria, um, people lived very close to family, so we were always together with the family, and it was a wonderful. We had very young parents. My mother was 18, my father was 21 when they got married, and it was like friends. And I had an older brother, Heinz, who was I was a wild child. He was very gentle, so we had a beautiful relationship, and so this is really why I had a good basis growing up, and that is why in the camp later I never wanted to give up, because I wanted to have this life like I had before with my parents, my grandparents, my brother. Of course, when all this collapsed, then really the difficulty started with me.
Thank you so much. So we know that you touched a little bit upon your connection with your spirituality and your religion in your book, but I would like to hear more about how your faith and your spirituality has changed throughout your lifetime.
Well, like you say, that was really a big change. Um, in Austria, you had to have religious education in school. So we were Jewish, of course, and we learned the Old Testament, we learned a bit of Hebrew, we learned Israeli songs, all kind of things like that. And so my parents were, of course, Jewish, but not really religious. So we told our parents we wanted to keep all the holidays. So we really educated them through, because I think when they went to school, it was not compulsory to teach religion at school. So so we were quite keeping to all the Jewish holidays and things like that. And of course, you do say the prayer in the evening to God. And so yes, as children, I think we accepted there was a God. But then later in the camp, the only thing what we could do was praying to God to stop those atrocities, to stop the Nazis doing what they are doing, to end the war, and God wasn't there for us. So when I came back from the camp, I must say I was an atheist. I didn't believe in anything, because I'd lost my father and my brother. Um, our family was, a lot of people had been perished from our family, and yeah, we lived in Holland, just my mother and me. We didn't know anybody. It was really, I must say that after the war, the period was the worst I've ever experienced in my life. And naturally I thought, well, God didn't, we are supposed to be the chosen people, but God wasn't there for us. So I became an atheist. And there, there was another little miracle happening in the camp with our breakfast, which was a little bit of liquid. You got bromide in it. That meant that women didn't have the menstruation. And so when I came back and later married, as I said, I wanted a family, and nothing happened. And eventually I went to the hospital, I had treatment. They said, yes, you are not properly developed, but we probably can help you. And so I was hoping. And after about a year, I was pregnant. And that was for me, of course, great joy. And when I had my first daughter in my arms, I said, this is a miracle to have survived, to have a child, a healthy, beautiful child, as I said, there must be a God. So I went through all kinds of stages, and I go to synagogue. I belong to a liberal synagogue, and something really annoys me still. We pray, of course, and we thank God all the time to look it after us. And every 5 minutes we say the prayer, thank you God for looking after us so well. And I always whisper to myself, no, you didn't look after us. Where is my brother? Where are my cousins? Everybody is gone. 1.5 million Jewish children, you let perish them. So how can we thank you for looking after us? So, I'm struggling. Now I say, yes, I believe there is a God, but why doesn't he look after us? So I've gone through different phases, and I wish there is a God who's looking after his Jewish people, but of course we will never know an answer. And I think that is a mystery of life, that we never really know. As well, when we die, we don't know what is happening. So, I'm 92 years old. I know I'm soon going to leave this earth, and I'm not anxious. I must say I have faith somehow. Perhaps I will see my father and my brother and my mother now, who died, of course, and many of my family. Perhaps I will see them again. So, I'm actually quite a happy person. But still waiting for a great grandchild.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's amazing. May that happen soon.
Thank you. I hope
So
so too.
moving on. Yes. So moving on. So you've been traveling and telling your story for many years now. For all your experiences in traveling the world and meeting so many different kinds of people, what is your advice for holding meaningful conversations with those who come from different backgrounds and whose views might differ from our own?
Well, yes, I have met many different people from different countries, many different races in China, in Japan, in Australia, and basically, we are all wanting the same. We want to have a safe life, we want to be able to have some food, we want to have a home, we want to have a family, and I think every every tribe, every person really believes in something which is more than just the life on earth, that there is something spiritual. So sort of a God, sort of somebody who organizes everything. So it's different, but it's still basically all the same. And I think, we can talk with those people just the same as with our own people in our own country. So, and I think, we make too much of differences. My husband always used to say, there's only one race, the human race, with different habits, but still everybody wants to have a peaceful life, to get a family, to have a job, to be able to feed people, the basic things that it was everybody, wherever you go, want to achieve.
I think it's wonderful that people are able to find that common humanity with people who we believe are so different from ourselves. And I think it's so important to remember that, like you said.
Yeah.
So today, this kind of follows that question. Today, we are bombarded with a lot of disturbing world news and events, and many of us feel like we have little power to change the world for the better. You have lived such a full and long life. what are some of your thoughts on what you see in the world today?
Well, of course, now with the different media, we know what is happening all around the world, and that seems horrific. But if you look at history, you will see that nothing really has changed. There have been terrible, terrible, not just the Holocaust, of course, but terrible things have been done. The Armenian massacre, and even now, the Spanish Inquisition, and what people did to each other to tie you on a wheel and peel your limbs away, the Spanish Inquisition, to burn people alive. You know, we have done terrible, terrible things. And now, of course, yes, it's still going on. We see too many murder, too many shooting, um, too many wars as well. You know, what have we done? The atom bomb. We invented the atom bomb to kill millions of people. You know, life has been always like this. But we have to try to change this, and that is, of course, the task of each generation. I'm sure each generation wanted to change things, but we have to change the attitude of people, which is, of course, not easy. It seems to be, we see now in the different governments, people do terrible things, and we want a democratic world, really, looking after the poor people as well, not just the rich. We say America, England is democratic, but they really are capitalistic. But people have objected through the years, the revolution, the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution. People don't put up with it. But the change is coming very, very slowly, and they talk now even about a third world war. God forbid that something like this should happen with our modern weapons. You know, it is, I'm afraid I can't really give you advice, because if I look, as I say, I'm very interested in history, and I've seen all along there were atrocities happening, and certainly to the Jewish people. We were always persecuted through every generation, and we hope that through our own country now it might stop, but it doesn't look as if it's stopping again. So, you know, but we must just not give up, and we must carry on teaching youngsters, and I think the young people are ready to change. They want a different world, and yeah, and so I think slowly, slowly, slowly we might achieve something like that. But it is a very, very long road, but we must not give up. We must have hope that yes, things will change eventually.
Thank you so much. I know that there are a lot of students who are going to see this, who are going to really benefit from hearing your words and your encouragement, especially when it comes to keeping the faith and not giving up in the face of adversity. So, I have just one more question for today, and it is also a follow up to our previous question. So, we would like to wrap up by asking you to speak directly to the students attending the Take Action conference. To end our conversation today, do you have any last words of advice to these students before we go in where they can go, how they can bring their activism to a level of true hope and faith in the common humanity?
Well, of course, if you listen to the news, you will be discouraged. But don't give up, because we still have a voice, we are still powerful, we can change the world. It is a slow, slow progress. There will be steps forwards, there will be steps backwards. But I think we have realized that we don't want to live in such an evil world like it has been for many, many centuries, unfortunately. So all the work you're doing is wonderful, and I, for instance, belong to the Spanish-speaking in Argentina. There is an organization through the Anne Frank Trust there to unite all the Spanish-speaking youngsters. And as well, they have meetings. What can they do to change the world for the better? So, there are about 2,000 youngsters all over the world, Spanish-speaking youngsters. And, they are trying to improve the world, to change the world, to help each other. And so are many, many organizations like your university wants to take action. So don't give up, carry on your good work, and slowly, slowly we hope that things is going to get better. Even with my experience through terrible, terrible things, I'm still an optimist. I think eventually we will achieve a much better, more for everybody, a peaceful world.
I think that is such a wonderful note to end on. Um, I believe it's very inspiring that even though you've been through so much, you still identify as an optimist. And I think that there are a lot of valuable lessons that all of the students can learn from that. I just want to take this time to say thank you again for taking the time to speak to us today. I, on behalf of the students at the Take Action Conference, just want to show our appreciation for all of your wisdom that you've shared with us today. And we wish you the best and in your life. And we will be taking these lessons and working them into our work and our activism every day. Thank you.
Well, I thank you very much. You were a very good interviewer. Thank you very much. And I look forward to come in April to speak to the students live, not just on internet, because personally it is always much nicer. So thank you, and I hope we'll succeed eventually to change the world. We must never give up hope that it is possible.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.